So I know Mark, and I'm supporting Mark, and I give advice, both solicited and unsolicited, to the campaign as well. So I'm not going to say everything that I have advised Mr.
Oh, come
Molinaro
on,
to
Frank.
do, but one issue which I'll say publicly that he failed to capitalize on so far is Governor Cuomo's shielding of the yeshivas, and he needs to make the governor not making these yeshivas adhere to state law. He needs to make that an issue, because in Rockland County, Orange County, Brooklyn, and Long Island, they see what's going on here in the community, and they see that a whole generation of young men is just being raised as illiterate, and they're just becoming a drain on the entire community in terms of social welfare spending, because they grow up without the ability to have any basic skills. And if Molinaro makes this an issue, then this is going to cause him to resonate in areas that aren't traditionally Republican areas. And you're seeing the New York Times, the New York Daily News, and the New York Post, three papers that very rarely agree on anything, all calling Cuomo out for what he's done to shield the yeshivas. And I think that Molinaro needs to make this an issue. So far, he hasn't done so.
Is there state money used for the yeshivas? Is that what you're saying? State?
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like a charter school virtually. Is that what you're saying there?
No, they're private schools, which is great, but
and
that's
then
fine.
why does the state fund a private
No,
school?
but the problem is that if you're a private school, Catholic, whatever, Jewish, Muslim, whatever,
Yep.
you have to teach basic skills. You need at least a little bit of secular education. But in many yeshivas, not all yeshivas, but many, there is no basic education going on there at all. This was part of the recent arrests that we just saw in Orange County and in Rockland County. It's a racket, and so these young men are being taught nothing. And in the instances of those arrests that we just saw, which Molinaro did not comment on at all, even though he was in Rockland County the day those arrests were announced, the people that run these schools were actually using taxpayer money to say they were buying school equipment like computers, and they weren't. They were putting it in their pockets. So there's just pandemic corruption going on in these yeshivas. But the real people suffering are these children who are growing up not knowing how to read, not knowing how to do anything, not knowing math, not knowing science.
And that's not an exaggeration. That's factual. You're telling me these are all facts.
I mean, remember when we brought this up, when Simcha Felda actually held up the state budget in order to continue to protect what was going on in these yeshivas, we heard from all these callers, many of them Jewish, who live in communities like Borough Park and Kiryas Joel and in Ramapo, saying this exact same thing. I mean, and so if you look at what areas of the state are leading the state in social welfare spending, one of them is Kiryas Joel, where this happens because these young men grow up without any ability to have a job. And so Molinaro needs to make this an issue, and so far he hasn't. And I think that's a real shame.
All right. Frankie, 5 boroughs right there. 877-970-2999. We have time for one more call. Then we're going to go to news with Al, and then Mike Gallagher is going to join us. Let me go to Morris in Brooklyn. Good morning, Morris. What are you thinking this morning?
Good morning. I happen to agree with them. These yeshivas try to insulate the kids against outside influences, which is good. But they come out of school and they know nothing about the world. That some of them barely, even though they're 4th and 5th generation Americans, they sound like they just got off the boat. They can't speak English properly. They don't know anything about politics. They don't know anything about geography, so on and so on. It's disgusting. Right. It's really something. There's a limit to how much you can insulate them, and they go.